Hello, welcome to Now Tell Us. I'm your host, Anthony Moirore. At Now Tell Us, we always have guests come and tell us good stories. They come and inspire us. They come and educate us, or maybe highlight a cause that is out there. And we always have great guests with us. Today's episode is sponsored by Podmatch. Now, Podmatch is a platform that automatically matches ideal podcast hosts and guests for interviews. If you'd like to sign up as an interviewer or an interviewee, follow the link in the description. And yeah, I will appreciate you doing that. Remember to share our episodes or once you go to our platform, which is nowtellus.com, and listen also on the platforms. We have Audible, we have Spotify, and we will appreciate every feedback that comes to us as we keep going. Now, I won't waste one more minute because we have a guest with us who has some great things to share with us. And at this point, I'm inviting to the show Jeff Kikel, and I hope I got that right.
You got it right, bud. Close enough.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on.
Yeah, it's such an honor to have you here, and we really appreciate you taking your time. So, before we get into the topic of the day, can we know who is Jeff?
Okay. Well, I guess I always explain the topic of the day and my life are kind of entwined. So,
Okay.
For most of my life, I was an employee of several different companies. Worked in the financial services industry for just almost 30 years at this point. And about 7 years ago, I was working for a company that I just absolutely could not work there anymore. I was very frustrated. I basically at that time had written my first book. And I decided that when I wrote my first book, I needed to promote it somehow. And I decided, well, maybe I'll just do a podcast. And realized that I probably needed to actually listen to a podcast first before I did that. So I started listening to podcasts and found one called Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas. And John at that time was doing a 7-day-a-week podcast. And he was interviewing entrepreneurs. And he would interview all these entrepreneurs. Well, the first 30 shows were him interviewing a lot of these entrepreneurs that by the time I started listening had become extremely successful. A lot of the early pioneers of the online world and everything else. And I started listening to it and I was like, those guys aren't any smarter than I am. And, if you have a good idea, you can do this. And I started listening, and decided that I needed to be an entrepreneur. And I started looking for an opportunity because I wasn't happy where I was at. I had gone to a bunch of events at co-working spaces. So, we're shared office spaces. And I decided, well, we didn't have anything like that in my town. And I'm going to go ahead and start a co-working space. I could still work my job and, own a co-working space at the same time. Well, after that point, I really had a hard time working at that company. So I ended up quitting my job, leaving there, started my co-working space, and also started a financial practice at the same time. So I never recommend starting two businesses at the same time that you have to rely on for income. So first mistake, bad. That led me to a couple of years of, we were in severe financial trouble. We burned through most of our seed money. Anytime you start a business, expect that it's going to take twice as long to be profitable and cost double the amount that you planned on. So that was kind of where we were at. We were running out of money. We were building businesses, got through that. And it really was hunkering down, focusing on the finances, growing the business, and continuing my career of working with small business owners and working with individuals who were retiring down the road. But I started to see that retirement for people was starting to change. People had this attitude of, okay, I don't want to wait around until I'm 65 to start living my life. I want to enjoy life now. And if that means that I can't retire when I want to, then that's fine. And I started to have a conversation with people about their Freedom Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Freedom Day really came from. It was some clients that I had who really were there. They had everything that they needed. They'd saved well. They didn't spend a lot of money. And I just told them, you woke up today and you went to work and you didn't actually have to. So you're at your Freedom Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment, that piece of that second in time, I saw people, you could visibly see the stress kind of come out of them and a smile come to their face. And I hadn't seen that in years of doing retirement income planning. Always people were still stressed. They were worried that, okay, I'm going to retire and then the markets are going to blow up and all that. And what I started to do is model what I was doing in my own life and model what I saw some of my most successful clients doing, and realized that it was different from the way I had been trained to do retirement planning.
Okay.
Retirement planning, the way I was trained, was you spend 40 years working, you scrimp and save as much as you can, you put it into accounts, retirement accounts that grow at a single digit rate. And then once you get to 65 or 66, you downsize your house, you buy a crappy car, and you go on one cruise per year, and that's the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to accept that in my own life, and I didn't want my clients to accept that in their lives either. So I started to look at, well, what was it that helped me be successful?
Mm-hmm.
And it was that I spent time focusing on building multiple income streams. I still invest in the stock market. I still invest in financial investments, but I spent a lot of time building multiple streams of income that really replaced my old job income.
Okay.
And I was able to live without having to worry about it. I mean, I could get up today and not work for the next month, and I'm still going to be able to pay my bills.
That's good.
So how did I help people model that in their own life? And that's really where Freedom Day came about. It's a book that's coming out now, sharing those strategies. It's launching a new financial practice based on those strategies as well.
Oh, wonderful. That's quite an intro. And we appreciate you. And knowing that we have a Freedom Day book coming, which we are going to eagerly await as it comes. And as we proceed, let me thank each and every person who's watching us, even those who get to watch us after we are through with this show.
Nice.
We are having actually one person who is DC Mike, watching from Benin City, Edo State, Nigeria.
Nice.
And there are others that maybe have not sent us comments. If you have a question, if you have a comment to make, please send it to us, and we are going to consider it if it's focused or if it touches the topic that we are discussing today. Plan Your Freedom Day by Jeff Kikel. Now, when I saw that planning your Freedom Day, I started to imagine of the many people that I have come across who are working. Yes, they are not looking at retirement, but then every single day they are complaining, this is not the job that I want. And it's like they are enslaved. They are waking up every day stressed, going to the office and being shouted at the boss, and they come out in the evening downcast. I mean, they don't like what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to imagine now, this is going to be a great eye-opener to them. That's my guess. That's my guess, and I hope so. So you were in a job that you didn't like, and then you started to look at side hustles. And we have many of the people that I have described, even before we go into the retirement. We have many of the people who are watching that are in that state. Where do they begin? Exactly, where do they begin?
Well, what I would tell people first is, look at the world that you're in today. If you're working for somebody else, you're selling your time for money.
Mm-hmm.
So you're selling your most precious resources, time. Now, during any given week, we have 168 hours. 40 of that, let's say 40 to 50 hours of that are spent at work.
Mm-hmm.
40 hours are spent sleeping. So let's call it, maybe if you sleep a lot more, let's call it 60 hours that you sleep. That
Mm.
still leaves you 40 to 50 hours of time. Now,
Yeah.
everybody tells me I have no time. I don't have time to do any of this stuff. Yeah, but you have time to goof off. You have time to watch TV or whatever you're doing. We all have that time, and time is an amazing resource, or it can be a hindrance to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that you've got to do is say, all right, if I'm selling 40 hours or 50 hours a week of my time and I'm sleeping, what is it that I can do in that remaining time that one doesn't consume more time? So I'm a big proponent of, really, there's 4, what I call, when we build this, we try and figure out first, or when we build a freedom plan for somebody, or what I call a freedom blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
what we do is we build their what we call their minimum essential income. So we need to figure out what it takes to run your life. And that's not what you are making at your job.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it actually takes to run your life. So if it's rent or a mortgage, okay, that's part of it. Your cost of food, everything else, all those things that add up, that are your minimum essential income. So we need to know what that is first. Then if there's something that you want to do over and above that,
Mm-hmm.
you need to add that. So if there's some, item, or there's some kind of lifestyle experience that you want, you need to add that to it. Now you know what your minimum essential income needs to be. Then create some type of an income stream that does it. And there's really 4 different types of income streams that people can have.
Mm-hmm.
So first of which, you can start a business.
Okay.
But starting a business, the mistake most people make is they start a business and they become an operator of that business and not an owner.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference. An
Yeah.
owner of a company has people working for them that do the work. They're there to kind of direct the action, but they're not doing the work. If
Okay.
you start a business where you're just selling more time for money, you just bought a job.
Mm-hmm.
And you're limited to the amount of work that you have the capability to do.
Okay.
But most of us know something. We have some type of specialized knowledge that other people want. So what can you do to take knowledge out of your head, put that into some kind of a package, and then turn around and sell that to other people that want to know about that?
Mm.
That's selling knowledge for money.
Mm-hmm.
And if I sell knowledge for money, I literally am not limited by time anymore. I'm just limited by audience. I need to get that product in front of the right audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one method of getting to your freedom, is starting a business. It's what I did.
Yeah.
I started 4 businesses over a period of about 6 years. I started 4 businesses, 2 of which now I've sold, one of which was for a 7-figure exit. So that was a way to create a ton of wealth in a very, very short period of time. I didn't invest a lot of money into that business. So my return on investment was multi thousand, it was over 1,000%
Okay.
of what I invested in that business.
Beautiful.
So that's one way.
Yeah.
You could buy a business. So there's franchises all over the world that you can buy into. So that's basically taking someone else's system, proven system, you go into it and you become the owner of that business. Once again, people buy into franchises and then just make it a job for themselves, and then they're miserable and they hate it and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you spend the money, you buy into a franchise and you hire good people to run it for you, that's another means of getting to that point. And either it's a stream of revenue coming into you, or you build it to the point where you sell it back to somebody else later on.
Okay.
The third method is more of a kind of a double-digit return type of a scenario, and that is real estate. So I work with my clients. I work with actually a guy that I met that does this here in the United States, of partnering with somebody that knows what the heck they're doing in real estate, me providing the capital, and I built a portfolio of real estate that not only is growing in value, but it's also generating an income stream for me. So, as of this day, over the last 6 years, I've been slowly building a portfolio of real estate investments that today basically pay my bills. So I don't have to, if I did nothing for, the next 10 years, I know I would have enough income coming in from those that I could live the life I had, prior to selling my business here this year. I could live well. I'd make a little extra money on the side, and that would be my fun money. The last method is if somebody's got a chunk of change, there's some investment strategies that you can do. A lot of times use it here in the United States, once again. So for people overseas, this may or may not work. But for people here in the United States, there's some financial vehicles, a lot of them using insurance strategies and things like that can generate down the road an income stream. So, if somebody's got money, they can use some of those. So, when I look at my world today, over the last 6 years, I built a practice, or, I built an investment practice. I built co-working spaces. I have a company that publishes books. So, once again, I've got multiple streams of income coming from that piece. I'm not a big buy into a business strategy kind of person. I like creating them. So the franchise route for me never really interested me. However, that could change, here in the future. That could change. And I might say, hey, I'm going to take some money and put that in there. I just really don't want to complicate my life more than that. I built a portfolio of real estate that has been growing. And I use some of those financial models and will be using more of some of those other financial strategies so that I really have multiple streams of income coming in. They cover my minimum essential income and then some on top of that. And I still invest in the stock market and financial investments as well, because those are very liquid vehicles. I'm a big fan. I buy some individual securities, and they're companies that are kind of on the forefront. And I know over time they're going to grow, and I don't invest a ton of money in them, but I kind of just leave it and hold those things and evaluate them on an annual basis.
Wow, that's a big insight to someone who's listening there and is wondering, where do I just start? I mean, there are options out there. Like if you have something that you're passionate about, that was quite an eye-opener to many people. And I believe even taking from a comment that has been sent by DC Mike, he was saying, I'm a public speaker, but currently I'm learning a skill and I have a huge passion for it.
That's awesome. And what I would say, Mike, is take that skill and see if, once you have learned that skill, take that skill and see if there's a way. I mean, you're a speaker, so you can teach people that skill. You could create a course that's kind of your own spin on that skill.
Yeah. Talking of real estate, I've always had this, but maybe this only works in the United States. But I've had people say that own your house with zero money down, with $0 down. How does that go? Is that something viable in where you are?
It's viable. I mean, I don't think it's complete reality. Most of the people, most of the people that try that, it's fine if the real estate market's going up, but you have no wiggle room if the market's not. If the real estate market doesn't go up, and if you're not in a market where interest rates are going through the roof like they are today, I mean, you're not giving yourself any flexibility, and that's a sure way to get yourself into trouble. So, what I would tell people, I mean, our typical investment here in the United States, for clients that I work with and help do this, I always tell them they need about $40,000 to $60,000 to kind of get their foot in the door. And then it will build on top of that. And work with a good partner who understands the market. You can eventually do this yourself, but I knew when I went into real estate, I had very good goals. I wanted to make double-digit returns. I wanted to take the least amount of risk possible. And quite frankly, I didn't want to be a landlord. So what could I do to do that? And I didn't want to rehab properties. I didn't want to flip properties. So, those are all, I don't know if it's for you over in Europe, but we have these DIY channels, and it's all these people that go find a house that's destroyed, and they come in and they redo it, and then they flip it to somebody else. That has no interest to me at all. I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted to just say, hey, I'm going to come up with the capital. I'm going to let you, I'm going to partner with you, and I'm going to invest. And that's what I do today. I have a couple different companies that I work with that these are people that do this for a living. I provide the investment capital, or my clients provide the investment capital. And they effectively, you split the profits on that property over a period of, several years, maybe 4 to 7 years. We would sell that property, and, it allows people to have that, to invest in real estate without having to become a professional real estate investor, which that's a lot of work. There's a lot to that.
Yeah, and we understand that because each and every one of us have their own focus. I mean, I have my own ideas of what is going on. I also have a different passion from you. And so something that I may focus on to be my source of income could be totally different, something that you could not be interested in. So it's to the listener to search himself, to look deep inside and think, what is it that I start doing today? I'll keep doing without getting tired, and keep pushing it every single day. That's my idea.
The best way I've ever heard it, the best expression I ever heard is, if you love what you do for a living every day, it's not work. And for me, I mean, I'll give you an example. This year, halfway through the year, my business partner came to me and said, hey, I want to buy you out of our business. And I mean, initially it was like, but, I've worked so hard to build this and everything else. But then the reality came to, I wasn't enjoying the business as much as I do today. I wasn't enjoying what we were doing because we were kind of going down a different path than what I saw was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So it was actually a gift in a lot of things. I mean, one, it created a large sum of money that allows me to basically do whatever I want. And I had that choice. I mean, I basically had, I went to a conference and I had 4 days by myself without my wife in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. It was very peaceful. And I literally had 4 days to kind of sit down and say, well, if I had all the money in the world, what would I do for the rest of my life? And I came down to, well, the whole Freedom Day concept, I want to share this with people. I want this to be my mission for the rest of my life. And I'm basically going back to doing what I was doing before it's a little bit more on steroids, because it's now taking some other things that I was doing outside of my traditional job for myself that I can now kind of get people involved in, and it's not just the same traditional the same traditional professional money manager route or wealth manager route that I've always helping people to get to that same life I had.
Yeah, and looking at your profile, I kind of saw that you give it some pressure, some focus that everyone should have a side hustle. I mean,
absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Well, everybody should have a side hustle, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, if you're going to work and you're selling your time every day and you're just barely getting by, you need a side hustle. There's only a certain amount of time outside of work, and most times that's in the evenings or on the weekends. So you might not want to work then. So find something that you're passionate about, that you can learn about and be an absolute expert in. So one of my favorite things, one of my friends, Jim Cathcart, is a professional speaker. He's world known. One of the things that affected him in his life was listening to a gentleman called Earl Nightingale. Back in the 1970s, Earl Nightingale had a radio show. And one of the things Jim heard early on in his life, and he was working as like a government clerk in Little Rock, Arkansas, but he heard Earl Nightingale say one thing, and that was, if you would dedicate 1 hour per day to your chosen profession, something that you enjoy, within 5 years, you will be the world's most recognized expert in that category. So Jim looked at it as, well, I've got an extra 60 hours, let's say, outside of work, and my job isn't real hard here at work, and I don't really even do 40 hours worth of work here. So if I would really dedicate like 4 or 5 hours to my day, I will be an expert. And he is. He's a world-renowned expert in multiple fields, mostly personal development. So find something that is your passion and just start studying the heck out of it. DC Mike, hey, I'm learning a new skill. Great. Learn that new skill. Spend an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, whatever it is. The more you learn about that and find everything you can find about it and become an expert in it, people will want your knowledge, and you can sell your knowledge to them. And I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're in Nigeria, you're in Greece, you're in Austin, Texas. We all have the same opportunity today. We have the ability to create a TV station, which you have, Anthony, which I have. I've created a TV station and a radio station with my YouTube channels, my podcast channel. I have the ability to reach the world. When would DC Mike ever hear from me? He's in Nigeria. I'm here in Texas. You're in Greece. When would we ever be all connected together? Well, that's the power of the internet. It's the power of what's been put into our hands by the technology companies. And there has never been a time in history where more opportunities have been made for, especially in the media space. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that if you just put videos up on YouTube or you film videos and put them on Facebook that you're going to become a millionaire. It's not. You have to have some kind of business to that, and you've got to have some things that get people to that. And there are millions of courses out there of how to turn a product into something, into a funnel that turns it into a sale. And, at that point, you've got a sales funnel that creates revenue, and then you drive people to that through the media that you're creating.
That's wonderful. And now, since you've interacted with a lot of people and several of them are your clients,
yep,
I know you've had so many side hustles. Which have been your most interesting side hustles that you've had people build?
So, I created 6 businesses over the last 6 years. So, of course, wealth management, been doing that for years. It's my full-time gig, but it's also my passion. It's what I love. I own co-working spaces.
And I'm asking with the interact for not specifically your own, but also those ones that you've had from other people.
From other people.
Even from other people.
A friend of mine, good client of mine, Marilyn. Marilyn was she worked in the finance field, loved animals, absolutely loved animals. She ended up becoming a dog trainer. So she's just really good at working with animals. Became a dog trainer and a dog boarder. And, for 10 years, almost 15 years, built a great practice. And that was what supported her life and everything else. She lived very well. She wasn't massively wealthy, but she lived extremely well. And I always thought that was amazing. I have another friend of mine who worked in the pharmaceuticals industry for almost 25, 30 years. And about 15, almost 20 years ago, and this was still while she was still working, she became obsessed and kind of interested in feng shui and Eastern philosophy and everything else. And what she ended up doing, Belinda, she went out and, she went to China and learned, she became a feng shui master and all this stuff. She came back to Austin and she decided to quit her career. She started helping people feng shui their homes. And that became a full-time career for her eventually. And now that's what she does for a living. Those are examples of people that found their passion. And once you find your passion, it's just easy. It's really easy to do. It's why when I looked at my life and said, well, I've got all the money I want, or that I need to live the rest of my life, why would I not just keep doing what I love doing? I'm 55. I got plenty of time to keep doing this. Does it mean that I'm going to hustle as hard as I had to before? No. but it allows me to do things like this and get on here and hopefully affect some people around the world that, you know, are sitting there in their little cubicle at work, dying a little bit every day. There's people out there, and, you know, I do interviews all the time. We're launching a YouTube channel starting next week where it's a whole bunch of the interviews I've done on my podcast, and I call them freedom stories. You know, it's just these cool people that have done something, that they found something that they were passionate about, and they just did it. They went out there and they did it. They took the risk. They took the chance. Interviewed a lady the other day that, you know, she's the perfect freedom story. 30 years old, got divorced, her apartment got broken into, and she was like, I just am done. She was living in New York. I just wanted to get out. So she spent 6 months in Bali and traveled all over Indonesia, came back to the United States, was looking at getting a job. And she's like, I just can't do this. And took some money, flew back to Bali, bought a whole bunch of clothing over there, brought it back over and started selling it at street fairs in New York.
Yeah.
You know, and for 18 years, she kind of, I don't think she ever made more than 6 figures. And now today, once e-commerce happened, she was able to add her more product lines and do it through e-commerce and be around the world. Today, she's making millions of dollars a year, living the life that she wanted to live, you know, and so she's an 18-year overnight success. But, you know, that's an example of somebody that's like, hey, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And I'm just going to keep doing it until I'm successful.
And I like how you describe that 18-year overnight success.
Overnight success, yep.
This brings to the attention of someone who's listening that nothing is built in a day. I mean, you've got you be there every single day building.
There are no get rich schemes. There are no get rich schemes.
Yes.
What I will tell you though is the what's touted, you know, the hustle economy and work 80 hours a week, things like that. That's just complete and utter BS. You know, by people on the internet that are telling you, oh, go out there and hustle and you'll do that. No, be smart about it. You know, I'm not going to go out there and hustle and spend 80 hours a week because once again, I'm selling my time for money. You know what? I'm going to hustle, but I fit my hustle into about 35 hours a week now. Okay. You know, my schedule, my weekly schedule is this. I get up on Monday morning. I work, you know, basically Monday's my prospecting day. So I reach out to potential prospects. Tuesday is my content day. I spend the entire day putting up, you know, doing content. So it's podcast shows, me doing videos, things like that. Wednesday, Thursday, I spend working with clients. And then my wife and I take every other Friday off.
Oh,
that's my life now. And we're soon to be every Friday off at this point.
What happens for the weekend?
Weekends, we go have fun. We're done.
So when we are working at a job, we are looking to have Saturday and Sunday. Now that's set. That's there. So you add yourself a Friday.
Yeah. I add an extra, you know, I'd add an extra day on. So we get every 2 weeks, we get a 3-day weekend. What I will tell you is now with that schedule, I've gotten, because I've clarified my message. So that was a big thing too, was really clarifying my message. Because I was doing a whole bunch of different things, people couldn't figure out how to refer people to me. They didn't really understand what it was I did. Now, as I stopped doing all these extraneous things and I refocused them all into one thing. So what I would say is, don't start doing 6 different things and 6 different types of, you know, get one, focus on one. And once you get that one done and it's up and running, then you can focus on something else. I kind of didn't have that capability to do that when I first started because I didn't prepare. I just quit my job and then figured it out. You know, if you prepare, so if you're still working at a job, okay, I'm going to give them 40 hours a week. They're not getting any more than 40 hours a week. So you better learn to be hyper efficient. And if you've got a remote work agreement, which is easier to do nowadays, figure out how to be hyper focused to where you can produce 40 hours worth of work in maybe 20 hours. So that gives you even more time to really grow a business or a side hustle and get that up and running and get that to where it's generating enough revenue to cover your MEI, then you can say, boom, I'm done. I'm out of here. I hate my job and I'm done. That was the mistake I made, is I didn't really have that. I didn't really plan well. And so I didn't really have that. I was starting to generate some income, and then we started running out of money and my income dried up and I was screwed for a while. Don't do that. Have it up and running. Then, yeah.
To everyone who's listening or those who are watching, the word is plan, plan, plan,
Yes.
plan, plan. Sit down and know what you're going to do. Don't just say, I quit my job and walk out of the office. No, you've got to sit down and plan. And
you can suck it up. You can suck it up for a while.
Yes.
Plan for it. And here's, if you're starting a business, if you're going to go out there and start a business and it requires some capital, realize it's going to take double the amount of time for it to actually start generating a livable income. And it's probably going to cost you double what you thought it was going to cost you at that point. So if you plan for that, you'll be okay. So if you think, well, I'll be profitable in a year, it's going to be 2 years, and it's probably going to cost you, if it was a $50,000 investment, it's probably going to cost you $100,000 to $150,000 to make that happen, because you're just going to screw stuff up at the beginning, especially if it's your first business.
Thanks for preparing us for that. So in summary, what are we going to expect from your book?
So the book, so it's Freedom Day, and it'll be at www.freedomdaybook.com. That'll be up and running here in the next 2 weeks. The book is going to come out for your listeners, Anthony. If they go to Freedom Day Book, they're actually going to get it because they're hearing about this for the first time. Freedom Day Book, you'll be able to get the book for $4.99 because I just want to get this in as many hands as they possibly can. The book's going to be about 150 pages, very power packed. It's basically going to tell my story, my strategies, exactly how to do what I did. I'm not going to leave anything out. There's no hidden stuff. It's exactly what it takes to do what I did to get to my Freedom Day. And I have multiple Freedom Days. So what you're going to learn is there's 3 types of freedoms. There's freedom of time, there's freedom of money, and there's freedom of what I call intention. And that freedom of intention is basically a bucket list. So think of it that way, is you're creating a bucket list. What you want to do before you die. And put those things down. Those are your intentions, and then go start doing those. And those intentions are some of them have price tags, some of them not, but you need to start doing those right away, immediately. That's the most important part of everything. And what I will tell you is the more you focus on the intentions, you're going to find the time to do them, and you're going to find the budget. You're going to create income to get yourself to that point.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Jeff, for everything that you've shared with us today. It's been quite a wonderful experience having you on our show. And before we go, we would love to know, there are those people who are saying, hey, I would like to know or hear much more from Jeff directly. How can they connect with you?
Yep. Easiest way, a couple ways. So I have a presence on Instagram at Jeff Kikel. So it's at Jeff Kikel. You can find me, or you can just email me directly at Jeff@JeffKikel, JEFFKIKEL.com. Either way, reach out to me. Love to hear from you. Love to hear any questions you have. And if you are interested in, just keeping up with, I'll keep you in the loop. If you email me, I'll keep you in the loop of what all is going on in what we call Freedom Nation.
Wow, wonderful. And to get him through the website, you just go to www.jeffkikel.com, and you'll get to connect with him in all the areas.
That way as well. Yeah, I've got my jeffkikel.com. That's got to be updated a couple things with Freedom Day. But yeah, no matter what, get to me, jeff@jeffkikel.com, and that you can email me directly, and love to hear from you and love to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We also thank all those who have been with us. And specifically, let me thank DC Mike, who has been with us from the beginning to the end. And Mike says, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Wonderful questions today.
Yes, and also those who get to watch after we are through, we thank you. If you send us some feedback, we appreciate. And
Absolutely.
This is just about what we have for today's episode. But before we go, Jeff would like to hear a few words that we should always remember. What are those words from you?
Well, let's go back to let's go back to what Earl Nightingale said to Jim Cathcart in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be the world's most recognized expert in anything, spend 1 hour per day learning something in your chosen field, and within 5 years, you're going to be there.
Wow, thank you. So 1 hour per day, set it aside, plan for what you want to do and what you want to become.
You have 60 extra hours. You can take 1 hour a day and study in your chosen field.
Wow. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff, for those words. And that's about it for today here at Now Tell Us. And I've been your host, Anthony Mwerore, and together with our guest today, Jeff Kikel, we are saying bye for now.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.